Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Our current session focuses on language and dialects in Africa. I hope and expect by the end of this session you would have an idea of the linguistic situation of Africa. Well, my dear students, since Africa is a large area and it is not possible to cover the linguistic situation of the whole area in one session, so probably it would be a good idea to delve into the situations of some sample areas. And the sample country that I have chosen for this purpose is Cameroon. Well, my dear students, the Republic of Cameroon is a West African nation on the Gulf of Guinea with an area of 465,495 square kilometers and a population of approximately 15.4 million. The interior consists of a high savanna plateau with the land descending to a lower, densely wooded plateau and then to swamps and plains along the coast. The area corresponding to the Republic of Cameroon was colonized by Germany in 1884 if we look at the political history of the area. And actually it was after First World War that the League of Nations gave the French a mandate of over 80% of the area, whereas the rest of the 20% area that came, under the British rule, and this was the area that was adjacent to Nigeria. As the time passed, after the Second World War, it was under the UN trusteeship. It was still ruled by the same colonial powers. So, because of this history, Cameroon has two official languages, French, that is the former French part, and English in the former British part. Actually, this is the only country in Africa that has both English and French as official languages simultaneously. All right, to help you understand the situation here, I would like you to imagine certain things. I would like you to imagine that you live in a small town called Speechwell. Let us imagine that your mother tongue is Norwegian and this language is spoken by your family and this is also spoken by your close friends. If you walk 5 minutes down the street, the language that you would hear would be different, and this time it would be Finnish. And after every 5 minutes, actually, there would be a change. In the next 5 minutes, you would run into people who speak Russian. When you want to communicate with any of these Finns and Russians, you have to address them because they do not understand your language and you don't understand their language. So you have to use the lingua franca that you have, the local lingua franca, that is English. Now imagine that neither Norwegian, Finnish, nor Russian are used as written languages as well. By so far, you would have started thinking that this is a really, really impossible situation to, imagine, because after every 5 minutes, language is changing. How is it possible? To add to the complexity of this situation, let us further imagination. This is a kind of a wild imagination, I would say, at this time point. But let us think of it that all the street signs are in none of these languages that we have talked about. Rather, all the street signs are in Japanese language, which is the official language of your country. To add further to the complication, when you were in school, the only language that was taught was Japanese because that is the official language. Now at your school, there was a teacher who recently came and from the southern part of the town, and that teacher speaks two languages, German and Japanese. German, which was his mother tongue, and Japanese, that is the official language of the area. Now, of course, when you started school, you could only speak your mother tongue because you learned the official language once you entered the school. So at that time, you only could speak Norwegian language and the local lingua franca that is used for functional purposes in the society, that is English. So English, of course, you used to use with your playmates and people at the street, etc. But interestingly, in this whole imagined situation, the teacher, this newly, inducted teacher, speaks to you, and the other 60 plus students in the classroom in Japanese from the very first day, because that is the official language and that is to be used formally. All this situation that I've presented to you, this was just an imagination. And the kind of links between Japanese and Russian and, Norwegian, etc., they seem to be very far-fetched links. And it seems that it is not possible that with such a huge diversity and with such humongous differences amongst these languages, all these languages would exist simultaneously and would survive together. However, when it comes to Africa and when it comes to Cameroon, this can be applied to the real situation just by changing the languages. All this, as I said, was hypothetical, but if you substitute all these languages that I have talked about with other languages, for example, if you replace Norwegian with Neza, if you replace Finnish with Hossa, if you replace Russian with Chamba, and you replace English with Fula, and Japanese with French. So, Neza, Husa, Chamba, Fula, and French, all together. This is how languages are used in this African context, in this particular area in Cameroon that we are talking about. And each of these languages is as diverse and as different from the others as are the languages that I pointed out as Russian or Finnish or Japanese and English, which are completely different. So, this description of a real situation that is found in many villages of African countries, Cameroon, and this is particularly found in one village, Galim, for example. This diversity gives us a clue to how, there is a very high degree of multilingualism and the coexistence of various languages in different parts of African countries.